The enigma of the Holy Grail. The truth right before your eyes. Have you ever wondered what the true secret behind the Holy Grail is? In this video, we reveal the shocking truth that has been hidden for centuries, right before your eyes. Get ready for an epic journey through legends, mysteries, and historical secrets that will change everything you thought you knew. Subscribe, like, and comment with your questions to dive even deeper into this enigma. What if I told you the Holy Grail isn't what you think it is? That the greatest treasure in history, sought by kings, knights, and even modern adventurers, might not be a physical object, but something far more powerful. In the next few minutes, I'm going to take you on a journey that spans centuries, connects ancient legends to modern secrets, and reveals a truth so astonishing you'll wonder, how did no one see this before? Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will change the way you see history. The Holy Grail. Everyone's heard of it. Maybe you picture a golden chalice glowing with divine light like in Indiana Jones movies. Or maybe you think of King Arthur's legends, with knights in shining armor galloping through dark forests in search of a sacred object. But what if I told you that all of this might just be the tip of the iceberg? The story of the Grail begins over 2,000 years ago, and no, I won't bore you with complicated dates and names. Let's get to the point. The Grail first appears in stories that mix real facts with myths so old, it's hard to tell one from the other. The first written mention comes from a poet named Chrétien de Troyes, around the year 1180. He wrote about a knight named Percival, who encounters a mysterious object called a Grail. But here's the kicker, Chrétien doesn't say it's a chalice. He describes it as a kind of tray or dish, something that glows and carries supernatural power. Weird, right? So why does everyone today think of the Grail as a magical cup? Blame another story, written years later, that links the Grail to Jesus' Last Supper. The idea is that this was the chalice used by Christ, capable of healing diseases, granting eternal life, and maybe even revealing divine secrets. But is that all it is? A cup? Think about it. If the Grail was just an object, why did it spark wars, crusades, and even secret societies? Why did people die, kill, and dedicate their entire lives to finding it? The answer is simple. The Grail isn't just a thing, it's a symbol, a code, an enigma hiding something much bigger. Let's go back in time. In the 1st century, Jerusalem was a melting pot of ideas, religions, and conflicts. The Last Supper, according to the Bible, was when Jesus shared bread and wine with his disciples. The chalice used there, they say, was kept by Joseph of Arimathea, a follower of Jesus. Legend has it that Joseph used this same chalice to collect Christ's blood on the cross, hence the idea of the holy blood. But here's where it gets interesting. In the Middle Ages, stories about the Grail exploded. Suddenly, it wasn't just a religious object anymore. Some said the Grail was a magical stone fallen from the sky. Others claimed it was a secret guarded by a hidden lineage. And there are even those who believe the Grail is a metaphor for something intangible, knowledge, wisdom, or even a direct connection to the divine. Now pause. Think about this. An object that changes shape depending on who's telling the story. A dish, a chalice, a stone, a secret. Doesn't that seem a bit convenient? Like the Grail was designed to be whatever people wanted it to be? Here's the first big hook. Mystery. Humans hate not knowing. When you hear about something so powerful, so important, but no one knows exactly what it is, you want to find out. That's why the Grail has survived centuries. It taps into our curiosity, that urge to dig deeper. And I promise, we're going to dig. Let's head to Brittany, in medieval England. There, the Grail becomes the heart of King Arthur's legends. Knights like Lancelot, Galahad, and Percival set out on impossible quests to find it. But here's an uncomfortable truth. These stories weren't just fairy tales. They were propaganda. Back then, Kings and nobles used legends to justify their power. Saying you had the Grail or that your knights were searching for it was like saying you had God's approval. It was a way to show your kingdom was special. But the Grail didn't stay locked in medieval courts. It jumped into the real world. In the 12th century, a group called the Knights Templar started being linked to the Grail. These guys were warrior monks, rich, powerful, and full of secrets. It was said they guarded sacred relics, including, you guessed it, the Grail. When the Templars were persecuted and destroyed in the 14th century, the rumors only grew. People started saying they hid the Grail somewhere, maybe in a fortress, maybe in a cave. And here's another hook: conspiracy. Everyone loves a good conspiracy theory. The idea of a hidden secret, guarded by a powerful group, is irresistible. The Templars were perfect for this. They had money, influence, and plenty of enemies. When they were burned at the stake, accused of heresy, the myth of the Grail grew even stronger. But hold on. What if the Templars weren't the only guardians of the Grail? Let's go to France, where another story emerges. In the south of the country, there was a group called the Cathars. They were Christians, but believed in very different things from the official church. For them, the material world was evil, and the true path to God was through the Spirit. Some historians believe the Cathars knew something about the Grail. Maybe not an object, but a forbidden knowledge. When the church launched a crusade against them in the 13th century, the Cathars were massacred. But before they vanished, it's said they hid their greatest secret in the castle of Montségur, in the Pyrenees Mountains. Now think about this. A castle on top of a mountain, surrounded by armies and a small group of people fighting to the death to protect... what? A chalice? Or something far more dangerous? Here's where the story gets weirder. In the 20th century, a guy named Otto Rahn, a German historian, became obsessed with the Cathars and the Grail. He believed the Grail was real and hidden in Montségur. Otto was so convinced of this that even the Nazis got interested. Yes, the Nazis. During World War II, they sent expeditions to search for the Grail, believing it could grant supernatural powers. They never found anything, of course, but the fact that even Hitler was after the Grail shows how powerful this legend is. Now here's one of the biggest plot twists in the Grail's story. In the 1980s, a book called Holy Grail took the world by storm. It claimed the Grail wasn't an object but a metaphor for a secret lineage, the descendants of Jesus Christ. That's right. The book suggested Jesus had children with Mary Magdalene, and those children formed a lineage protected for centuries. The Grail, then, would be the Holy Blood. In French, sang real, which sounds a lot like Holy Grail. This idea is so shocking it feels like something out of a movie. And in fact, it became one, the Da Vinci Code. But before you think this is just fiction, know that this theory has roots in ancient texts. There are apocryphal gospels, texts that didn't make it into the Bible, suggesting Mary Magdalene was more important than the official church let on. Was she just a follower of Jesus, or was she something more? Here's another hook. The forbidden. Everyone wants to know about things that have been hidden, censored, erased from history. The idea that the church might have concealed the truth about Jesus and Mary Magdalene is the kind of thing that makes you want to watch until the end. But let's slow down. Before we dive into conspiracies, let's look at the facts. The Grail, as we know it today, is a mix of Christian, pagan, and even Celtic stories. For example, in Celtic legends, there were magical cauldrons that could bring the dead back to life. Sound familiar? The idea of an object with supernatural powers existed long before Christianity. When Christians started telling their own stories, they took these ideas and mixed them with Jesus' narrative. This brings us to another question. What if the Grail is older than we think? What if it's a symbol that connects all religions, all cultures? Some scholars believe the Grail is a universal idea, something that represents the search for the meaning of life. It's not an object you can hold, but something you feel. a truth within you. Now, let's go to Glastonbury in England. This place is called the spiritual heart of Britain. They say Joseph of Arimathea brought the Grail there after Jesus' crucifixion. In Glastonbury, there's a spring called the Chalice Well. Its water is red, due to iron in the soil, but legends say it's Christ's blood. Thousands of people visit this place every year, seeking answers, healing, or just a piece of the mystery. But here's something few people know. Glastonbury is also linked to King Arthur. It's said he was buried there, along with his queen Guinevere. And where does the Grail fit in? Well, legends say Arthur and his knights searched for the Grail in this very region. Coincidence? Or is Glastonbury the center of something much bigger? Now let's shift perspectives. What if the Grail isn't something you find but something you understand? Many spiritual traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism talk about the idea of awakening, of finding a truth within you. What if the Grail is that? Not an object, not a lineage, but a state of mind, a revelation. Think about it. All the stories about the Grail, the Knights, the Templars, the Cathars, have one thing in common: the quest. The Grail is always just out of reach, something that requires sacrifice, courage, and faith. Maybe the real message of the Grail is that the journey is more important than the destination. But let's not get too philosophical. Let's go back to history. In the 15th century, a man named Thomas Malory wrote Le Morte d'Arthur, one of the most important books about King Arthur. In it, the Grail is described as a divine object, but only the pure of heart can find it. Galahad, the perfect knight, is the only one who succeeds. But here's the thing. When Galahad finds the Grail, he doesn't come back home with a trophy. He's taken to heaven. Doesn't that make you think? Maybe the Grail isn't something you keep, but something that transforms you. Now let's fast forward to the present. Today, the Grail still captivates. It appears in movies, books, games, but it also inspires real people. There are archaeologists searching for relics in ancient churches, historians deciphering medieval texts, and ordinary people like you and me who feel there's something more to the story, something we don't yet understand. And here's the craziest part. The Grail might be closer than you think. There are churches in Europe that claim to have the true Grail. One of them is the Cathedral of Valencia in Spain. They guard a chalice said to be the one used by Jesus. It's made of agate, a stone common in the Middle East during Christ's time, and it has an Arabic inscription. Scientists have studied it, and it dates back to the 1st century. Could it be the Grail? Another contender is the Basilica of San Isidoro in Leon, also in Spain. There, they have a chalice that belonged to a princess named Urraca. Recent studies suggest it might have come from Jerusalem. But again, is the Grail just an object? Or are these chalices merely clues to something bigger? Here's another hook: hope. Everyone wants to believe there's something magical in the world, something yet to be discovered. The Grail is that promise. It makes us dream, makes us want to explore, makes us want to know more. But what if the Grail is all these things at once? An object, a lineage, a secret, an idea. Maybe the true power of the Grail lies in its ambiguity. It's what you need it to be. For a medieval knight, it was glory. For a monk, it was faith. For a modern adventurer, it's the mystery. Now let me tell you one last story. In 1191, a monk in Glastonbury announced he'd found the tombs of Arthur and Guinevere. This drew pilgrims, money, and power to the town. But there was a problem. No one ever proved those tombs were real, and yet people believed. Why? Because the Grail and everything it represents is bigger than facts. It's a story that keeps us alive, that keeps us searching. So where is the Grail today? Maybe it's in a church in Spain. Maybe it's hidden in a mountain in France. Or maybe it's inside you, waiting to be discovered. The truth is, the Grail was never found because it was never lost. It's right before your eyes, in every story, every legend, every question you ask. And now, I want to hear from you. What do you think the Holy Grail is? A chalice? A secret? An idea? Leave your thoughts in the comments because this mystery only grows when we share our ideas. And if you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will blow your mind. Ask your questions because the next video might be about what you want to know. Let's keep unraveling the world's mysteries together.